Good evening, everyone, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to 15 Minutes of Fame with Dawn Branch. This is where we bring industry professionals right into your home so you can hear about their journey. Today's guest is Miss Sydney Burtis of Orlando, Florida. Welcome.
Thank
Woo,
you so
woo.
much.
Thank you, Miss. Now, Miss Sydney is a world-renowned choreographer, tap choreographer, and artist, and she's still a student at the Pace University in New York, right? So exciting.
Yes.
I know. How long have you been in school, in college?
As of now, I am a senior, so I have 1 year left.
Oh my God, missed the whole. I'm old, everyone. I'm just missing out on everything. So I met you years ago. You must have been, I don't even
Oh,
know, I don't want to say, but you were amazing then. Like you were having privates and you were helping assist professionals like back then, and you had to have been maybe 11. Like you were a baby.
probably. I've known you for a very long time,
I
so it's definitely
know.
been like almost 10 years.
I know, and you look gorgeous, and I'm very, very proud of you. And please tell your mom hello. She was always very nice.
I will. I definitely will.
So, Miss Tapper, I always ask my guests who is as the first question. So, first question of the night, who is Miss Sydney Burtis?
So, I am a multifaceted artist. I do a lot of different genres of dance, with tap being my all-time favorite, but also doing a lot of contemporary dance work. I'm the daughter of a beautiful family, which I'm so grateful for every single day. Yes, lots
Yes,
of support for that.
yes.
I am a student, as you said, at Pace University, but I'm also just forever a student, as you never stop learning.
That's
I'm
right.
grateful to be a teacher and choreographer as well, but most of all, I always try to be a very kind and authentic human, so that comes before anything.
Well, we are so lucky to have you on this show, and thank you so much. I want to ask you about being a teacher. How long have you actually been teaching tap? Because what are you, 19, like 20? Like, how long? Like, do you remember your first class and what was that like?
Yeah, I started teaching when I was around 15, as far as like full on classes go. When I was probably like 13 or 14, I was starting to teach some privates to some students at the dance studio that I was growing up at the time. But the first time that I started like teaching an actual class, my first class was at Marshall Ellis Dance School. He let me
Okay.
teach a tap class. Yeah, and that was
Shout
my
out
home
to
studio at
Marshall.
the time. Yeah. Love them over
Okay.
there. And
Hmm.
I remember being very nervous because it was my first teaching experience and I wanted to do a really good job, and
Hmm.
I created a combination for the class, and it was just so much fun getting to teach some of my friends for the first time and get to share my love of tap dance with them, and also get the experience of, like, for example, learning how to count while I'm dancing. That's something that I've continued to learn over time. With being a tap dancer, you have to be able to know how to count out what you're doing, as time is so important to tap dance. So, having the constant practicing of being able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, back to 1, 2, 3, 4 in a musical bar structure, learning how to do that on top of the rhythms that I'm creating, seeing where that fits, which also just helps me be a better tap dancer in
So
general.
I have
Yeah.
a question about how a tap class is structured. So, you know, I have the modern background. So, you know, you do your technical warm up, then you do your progression warm up, and then you usually do some choreography. Is how is your tap class structured? What are the things, the main points that you guys have to do each class to get better and better?
Yeah, I feel like it can vary from time to time depending on what the goal of the class is. For the most part, it starts off with a warm up. Most of the time, a one song warm up. My
Hmm.
favorite tune that I like to use is Point Sienna by Ahmad Jamal, which is a jazz standard. This specific one, I believe, is like around 8 minutes long. One
Oh,
of my
wow.
mentors, Sarah Reich, always uses it in her class as well. But
I
Point
know her.
Sienna,
You're so okay. Hi, Sarah. She's
yes,
gonna
her,
kill
like
us.
big sis.
We can't say names. We can't remember they might. But hi, Sarah. Okay, go ahead.
It's okay. I talk about her all the time and she knows. she's my big sister in life, and yeah. But she
Okay.
always uses this song in her warm up. So I also adopted it, and it's also one of my favorites since I live kind of on the border of Poinciana in Kissimmee. So
Mhm.
it's also
Mhm.
a fun fact because a lot of tap dancers just also don't know that Poinciana is a place. It's like
Okay.
my little fun fact at the beginning of class. But
Okay.
anyways, I like to use that as a long warm-up structure that kind of includes all of the basic technical elements. Also, that helps me kind of gauge the level of the class to know,
Mhm.
okay, so this is a good starting point. This is where we need work. This is how I can incorporate that into the class.
Okay.
From
And
there,
now I want to ask, I want to take us back to when you had your first little pair of tap shoes. Like, how did you fall in love with dance? Like, was your mom a dancer, your dad? Like, who introduced you and how did it all happen?
yeah, so my mom grew up with a little bit of a dance background, but nothing really more than just taking class for the most part. And then she did a bunch of other things growing up as well. Like she was
Mhm.
really into acting. She's a black belt in Taekwondo. She's just done
Sorry.
so much. My
Okay.
dad is an artist in architecture, but not as much anywhere else.
Mhm.
So we didn't necessarily have the background of my parents owned a dance studio and I grew up in that environment.
Mhm.
Um, so it kind of all started from me being diagnosed with what at the time was called mild autism, but is
Mhm.
now considered autism spectrum disorder. And so it all kind of started there. I was in a bunch of different therapies from sensory integration to
Mhm.
occupational to speech therapies. And over time, I was improving and everything, but my family decided to put me in ballet class when I was around 3 years old, so I could be around other children and get
Right.
more of that social interaction because that's
Mhm.
somewhere where I kind of struggled. Um, and so, long story short, I was enjoying the classes. At the end of the year's recital, I stood absolutely frozen on stage with my
Oh.
hands over my eyes, just unable to move because everything was just sensory overload. Well, I'm sorry, my voice cracked
Mhm.
and just really overwhelming. And so the doctor pretty much told us that if I enjoyed the classes, I could continue taking them. I just might never perform on stage. Like that might not be something I'm able to do. So
Okay.
we're like, okay. So we started in jazz, but most importantly, tap dance after that. And that's when everything changed. I was very inspired by my teacher. She was absolutely incredible. And I was obsessed with like the patterns that she would do with her feet as people on the spectrum are very into different patterns and getting into those. Like growing up, I would always like play with my toys as a young child would and like put them in different patterns and such where the normal person might be like, that's a little strange, but I don't know, it made
Okay.
sense to me. But also the input that the dance had on my feet with the floor was its own form of therapy. So, long story short, by the end of that year, I was able to perform on stage with no problem. I loved the experience, and tap dance pretty much gave me the voice that I didn't
Wow.
have for a very long time. And it's helped me grow into the person I am today. So it feels like I was meant to tap dance as it's like just
Right.
coursing through my blood throughout my whole body. It's the reason why I'm able to be the person I am today. So it's always just been so, so, so special to me.
So how many hours do you think you've trained? Let's just say if there's a student out there who really wants to aspire to become a professional tapper, how many hours do they have to put in, do you think? In a week, in a day? Yeah.
I guess it kind of depends because there are so many different ways of learning about tap dance. There's,
Okay.
of course, taking class, so I definitely suggest more than one tap class a week if that's possible. But there's also a lot of time that you can spend on your own practicing, whether it be in improvisation, technical exercises. You can either learn from a teacher or even just create on your own. And then, but there's also like so much to learn. For example, even though your shoes might not be on, reading about the history through certain tap dance books. That's a very important way to learn, or by watching footage on YouTube, because there's so much accessible to us now where
Mhm.
back in the day, they would only be on like
Mhm.
VHS tapes. And so that was the only way to acquire this footage. But because we're so lucky to be able to watch via YouTube, that's a really important part of the education, as being a tap dancer is more than just doing a little tap step here and there and moving feet really fast. It's about the rhythmical experience. It's about the history and people that came before us who gave us the freedom to be able to express ourselves in this percussive form. But it's also listening to jazz music, as jazz music and tap dance are both American art forms that have grown up synchronously all together. So through all of that, you can do so much with tap dance and continue learning about tap dance, sometimes not even while wearing your shoes. It's about the
Okay.
whole experience. So long story short, many hours.
Many, many hours. Okay, so since we're talking history, about how many different styles of tap are there, and which one is your favorite?
So that's actually a really interesting question because there are so many debates as far as the different styles of tap dance go, as all of tap dance is kind of tap dance in itself is the combination of sound and movement. That's what one of my mentors always talks about.
Mm.
And that's like my favorite definition and something that I live by. But with that being what tap dance is made up of, it's always a percussive element. It's always a percussive art form, no matter if you're feeling more upright or if you're more grounded into the floor. So a lot of people like to separate it as like rhythm tap dancer and Broadway style of tap dancer. I guess I'd be more in that rhythmical sense, but at the same time, there's so much movement within I guess the rhythmic form of tap dance, but then all tap dance is rhythm. So that's also
Mhm.
always included in what would be considered as the Broadway style of tap dance as well. So I feel like there are elements of both that I feel connected to. I always just try to focus on as much movement as possible, and I because like doing other genres of dance as well, that
Mhm.
makes me more apt to moving and using my body in these different ways. So I just love having that aspect connected to the millions of possibilities that the feet can bring musically.
Okay, so now let's go to movies and Broadway. Let's pick out of the movies, which is your favorite tap movie, and then let's go to the Broadway. Which one is your favorite tap musical?
Yeah, so I feel like for the movie, it has to be. Oh my gosh, start over. It has to be Tap, the movie,
Ah,
starring Gregory
okay.
Hines, amongst many other incredible masters of the art form. There are just so many famous and classic scenes within that movie that I truly love. One being the challenge scene. It's one that I always
Mhm.
like to watch and refer back to, as well as the street scene, which has
Mhm.
so many classic, like Gregory Hines quotes that all tap dancers continue to use in their repertoire today. So that's
Wow.
always a favorite, near and dear to me.
Okay.
For musicals, it has to be Black and Blue. I just love it so much because it also has my all-time favorite piece of footage by Dr. Bunny Briggs, his In a Sentimental Mood solo in Black and Blue. I could watch that over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
that's why that one is also my favorite.
Okay. I remember, and I know people in that play, and I remember. Oh God, I'm aging myself. So, have you been before the craziness happened with COVID and everything? Had have you gone to Broadway? Have you been able to enjoy it? I know you've been at Pace for like 3 years. So, when you were in New York, were you able to make it to Broadway and see some dances and musicals?
Do you mean just like watching musicals?
Yes.
Then
And
yes,
just
yeah,
going. Oh, okay. Which
I've
plays did
definitely
you
been able
see?
to see some.
Which ones did you
Um,
see?
I got to see Waitress. That was
Okay.
so, so, so special. I'm trying to think. I've seen Cats before. I got to watch Chicago the musical, which I'll probably talk about a little bit more later on
Okay.
in the interview. But there are a million others as well. Billy Elliot was one of my first musicals that I had ever
Okay.
seen,
So
and that's
let's talk about that. That's great. Now you had an opportunity to tour with Billy Elliot.
I did.
So talk about that and what was that like?
Yeah, so I got the audition process from NYCDA Nationals as a little mini in the mini room. They had different
Okay.
auditions going on. I think Annie was another one going on at the same time.
Mm.
So I auditioned for Billy Elliot. They called a bunch of us back the next day at a different location to have a callback interview where I I remember like standing in a circle, all of us having to sing a different line of happy birthday. I remember being terrified for that. But then we also got to learn some rep from the show as well, one of the big ballet girl sections. And then for the most part, I didn't hear anything actually until like a year later. I was, funnily enough, in the city. I remember being in like the taxi home with my mom when the casting director of the show called and was like, "Do you think Sydney would be able to come
Oh,
into the
wow.
city in like a week
Wow.
for a final callback with 10 dancers?" And me and my mom were like, "Well, I'm leaving the city right now, but we can come back." So left our little family vacation early,
Hmm.
got to go back there, and we had the final call back. They were looking for two dancers out of the 10 that they called back. And about a week or two after that, I was fortunate enough to be casted in the show as ballet girl Keely Gibson. I was very excited. I remember finding out in like the back of a shoe carnival. My mom put this like blaring ringtone on her phone so that way when we knew that
Right.
we had to pick it up.
Right.
And when I could see that my mom was like shaking her head, yes, that I got it. I was
Oh,
screaming in the back of the shoe store. People thought I was insane, but I was like, I
that's
don't care. I'm getting
awesome.
my dream.
So what was that like traveling and where did you go?
Yeah, we went pretty much like all across the United States and even went to two stops in Canada, which was
Wow.
absolutely incredible. We were in Canada in January, so it was so snowy and beautiful, but I loved the experience so much. So
Oh,
pretty
very
much the
nice.
process was my first stop was Detroit, Michigan. So that's where me and one of the other girls who got casted from that same callback, we
Hmm.
learned the entire show in those 2 weeks, from the dancing to the singing, along with having to do school in that as well, because with a lot of the cast being made up of children, we were
Hmm.
also in school, so we had to enroll in online school and would pretty much do like our educational portions of the day like early on, so that way at night we could perform and have the show. And then every Monday for the most part, that would be our travel day, so that's when
Okay.
we would go to the next location either by plane or by bus. It kind of depended on how far away we were from the city.
Wow.
But
And how long was your run with that?
I was on tour for about 7 months.
Oh, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah,
Are you still in contact with any of the cast members? I always ask that question.
I am. I don't talk to them every single day necessarily,
Hmm.
but social media helps with that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll run into some people randomly, especially like if I'm at Broadway Dance Center. Sometimes I'll see people there. And I actually was roommates with one of the Billies in the show. He was like my long, long time friend. And we ended up, because we were both at Pace at the same time, we ended
Oh.
up living together for a little bit too.
Okay, see, I love that. I love that. I want to be able to show the audience now some movement style that you have. So let's see. Let's see if we can go and see what Miss Sydney got going on. So you're going to have to talk me through each of these if you don't mind and just identify where you were and what this is about.
Of
And let me
course.
know if you can hear this. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's set this up. So where are you now and what's about to happen?
So this piece of footage is from October 2020, actually, which is, of course, during the pandemic, so we're all wearing masks. This
Mhm.
is a video project that I choreographed because I was really wanting to create something, and this song was always in the back of my mind. It's called "Better Off Without" by Armin J, and it's one of my all-time favorites. And I used three of my friends to perform in the piece as well. All of us are tap dancers based out of New York City, between like the ages of like 18 and 22 for the most part. And
Okay, and you choreographed this. How long did it take you to do this?
let me think. It probably took me a few months, I'd say.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, let's watch. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but because you have several other videos, but let's take a look see. A look see.
Can't seem to fix it. I could tell everyone, but only you really understand. They always just making excuses for being a little selfish. Oh,
so clear. So
Thank
let
you.
me ask you, those type of shoes, what type of shoes are those? And what's your favorite shoe? And do you have a shoe sponsorship?
I do not currently have a shoe sponsorship,
We're
but
gonna get you one. Give this girl a shoe.
hey, if Capizio could pick me up for their K360s, that would be a dream come true. So if Capizio watches, please sponsor me.
Yes, we're gonna tag them in that.
Yes,
But
but Capizio K360s are my favorite type of shoe. If I'm not mistaken, I think all of the dancers in this clip are wearing those
wearing
shoes as
that.
well.
And for the
And
people like myself who do not know, about how much would a tap shoe cost you? Jeez, they're expensive.
it depends on how fancy you want to get with it. Because some people like to keep them solid color. That's my personal preference. But
Okay.
obviously, like the more colors you add on, the more expensive the shoe. So I'd say in like the $300 range is pretty standard.
Woo! And how long will you go through that? Shout out to your parents.
I know I'm very, very grateful that they've helped me out with that because I need tap shoes for sure.
I mean, yeah. How long would one pair last? Because you tap all the time. So how
Yeah,
long would one
it
shoe?
depends. I would say
Okay.
probably around a year. Um,
Okay, that's not
someti-
that bad then.
sometimes a little bit less. Definitely not as often as like a point dancer would go through their shoes.
Yes. Oh
But
wow. I was just wondering. Okay, now set this up. Where are you?
so this is from Orlando Tap Festival actually this past summer because it was in the questionable like do we wear masks if we're socially distant enough then we don't have to. So we were able
Okay.
to do our festival with just local dancers because originally we were going to have teachers flying in from different places, but with the pandemic, of course, it wasn't possible. So we
Right.
did a 1 day workshop just so we could have the Florida tap dance community come together throughout this crazy, crazy time. So this is from my advanced class to the song Everlasting Love by Jamie Cullum, one of my favorites, with some incredible tap dancers and friends of mine.
Okay, so before I roll the tape, I want the audience to understand that you were actually a co-founder of the Orlando Music Festival. So talk about that. How did that come about and who's your partner?
Yeah, so Orlando Tap Festival was created about 5 years ago. This summer will be our fifth festival, which is just wild to think about. So the co-founder of this festival is Marshall Ellis, and this is
Oh,
his.
I didn't why didn't I know that? Okay, I should know that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the two of us, but pretty much he was doing like conditioning and strengthening privates with me back in the day when I was like in high school and everything. And I would talk to him about wanting to create more opportunities for tap dancers in Central Florida. And he is so passionate about creating just dance opportunities in general for the Florida dance community. So we're like, why don't we create a tap festival right here? And so
Yes.
yeah, pretty much that summer we created the festival with very close teachers of mine and friends of mine came out and supported us. And that has helped us be able to catapult into what the festival is now.
Yes. And I do it's coming back to me now. I remember getting those emails. Okay, so here we go. I just don't tap, but okay, I'll pass it on. Here we go. Hey. It just makes me smile. I love that. It just makes me smile. It's so great. Everyone there is so full of life and love and timing. Like,
Yes, we were just all so grateful to be able to come together in the midst of the crazy pandemic and everything because it was our first time being able to share space. We were
yes.
all so grateful to be there and it was such a positivity filled day.
Wow, look at those green shoes. Those are the same ones you had, those other ones? Uh-oh, what's this?
My
Where are we
favorite
now?
ever.
Where are we? I didn't move too fast for myself. Where are we?
I can still see the video. It's just on a smaller screen on your desktop.
Okay.
So if you click the
All
green
right,
button,
there we
yeah.
go. Okay, so we are now, it says in New York City. So
Yes.
now, wait, you're teaching? What are we about to do? No tap shoes? What's going on?
So this is from a contemporary class of a very close friend and teacher of mine Hayden J. Frederick. Um, they're an incredible contemporary artist, incredible trans artist, forever inspired by everything that they are. I'm actually in their dance company, their contemporary dance company,
Oh,
and throughout the pandemic, since I was invited into their space in, I would say, August of this past year, they've allowed me to be in various artistic and creative spaces with them. For example, like even maybe not necessarily for this combo, but for other pieces of choreography they've taught in class, I've been able to join them in the studio beforehand to help create the combo, and some of the company members
oh,
together help.
okay.
Yes,
So this is part of your choreography we're about to watch.
not necessarily. This is
No.
their choreography,
Oh,
but
okay.
I've been in this place to be able to pretty much assist
Okay.
them and dance with them.
All right. So let's take a look see of you doing contemporary.
I wanted to see the world through your eyes until it happened. Then I changed my mind. Guess
Oh, I see the boxes. Okay. You are a very emotional artist, young lady, I
Thank
must
you so
say.
much.
You got to come take my class. Who knew you were
Yes,
doing
please.
contemporary? Who knew? Used to be, I remember you used to be able to take my class. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Like,
I really want to
no.
take class now though, so hopefully one day, really soon, we can make that
Oh,
happen.
God, that's so
But yeah,
funny.
contemporary is a very big love of mine as well. I've grown up, of course, doing all genres of dance, and I've always felt really connected to all genres of dance,
Yes.
especially tap dance and contemporary dance. And being able to continue to train in contemporary, especially while being in New York City, amongst
Hmm.
other places, has been really, really special for me and has also really influenced my tap dancing as well.
Yes, I mean, you're about to see that. Let me play. Is this the one? When, let's do this one real quick. When you have all of your contemporary in, I don't even think they were ready for you here. Hold on. We're not going to play the whole thing, but introduce this clip right before I start, where this was and
Yeah, so
all
this
that.
was the judges audition for So You Can Dance season 16. So You Think was always something that I had wanted to be a part of since I was like 5 years old. I grew up watching it and always
Hmm.
knew that I'd be a part of the show in some way, as it was a really big dream of mine. So back in, I believe, like 2019, I was able to be a part of the show as a contestant. And so this performance is the judges audition, the big one that gets featured on TV and everything. And
Yes.
this is my choreography, a piece called Any Other World, by the artist. I believe you pronounce it Micah, might also be Mika, but Mika is the spelling.
Mhm.
And I've always wanted to do like this song, and so using this piece for, I'd say, a few years, it was always really special to me. So that's what I wanted to showcase.
Okay, well, let's take a look. See.
And cue music.
Eee! I'm sorry. There it goes. And they were not ready for this. They were like, what? Negative, negative. Jesus. This makes me smile. You just make me smile. Oh my God,
Thank
what am I
you.
going to do with you? Wow.
Thank you
This,
so much.
I mean, true artistry. That's what
That
I have to say. I mean, yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about music and the tap. because, and I've never quite under like I love to hear tap without the music, but then I love to hear the tap with the music. So I just don't know which one I like better. So explain to me the difference and why some choose to do it without the music and then people choose to do it with the music. I don't know if that makes sense. Help me.
Yes, I think it does.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I feel like artists, depending on what they're trying to express, choose if they want to do a cappella tap dancing or tap dancing with music. But then there's also what kind of music do you want to dance to? So jazz music is always the standard answer, as I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. Jazz music and tap dance are both American art forms that grew up together, so their histories are very intertwined with one another.
Mhm.
And something that tap dancers do quite often is perform with jazz musicians and jazz bands
Mhm.
in an improvisational setting. That's something that tap dancers do quite often. So it's standard for us to know our jazz standards and
Mhm.
always be ready for that. And that's also always a choreography potential as well. A lot of people choreograph to jazz music, which I've done as well. It's something that's like really important, and it also helps teach tap dancers more about tap dance connected to music in general and how our personal music can be more rhythmical, and it's always been very helpful. But then as the times have gone on, people have also chosen to dance to other styles of music as well. Like
Yeah.
throughout the years, tap dancers have always stayed true to jazz music, but also veered
Mhm.
off of that a little bit. Like
Mhm.
in the 80s, got really into funk music as
Hip
well.
hop was one of them too. Well, bringing the noise, bringing the funk. I mean, yeah. So just
Exactly.
I was just wondering, just I just how that all worked and which one you preferred. I just know I love what I just saw
Thank
on
you.
So You Think You Can Dance, all that fancy footwork. Now I had asked the question, everyone, and don't laugh, Sydney, but I did. And she said, "Don't ask that question, Miss Dawn." But I said, "But I gotta ask because I have to ask." So about how many count? How many? What did they ask you? How many sounds do you have per 8 count? And she's like, "No, Miss Dawn, that's not it." So explain to me how you figured that out, and why that's hard to describe.
Yeah, so pretty much the question was about how many sounds can you create in an 8 count.
Right.
And now Anthony Morgerato has done how many sounds can you create in a minute through the Guinness World Records, and he has the
Okay.
highest record of that. I don't remember how many that is, but he has
Hmm.
that record.
And
But
what? Oh, you just said you don't remember. Okay, go ahead.
I don't remember. I'd have to like fact check it before I say.
Okay,
But long story short, it's a lot.
a lot.
Yeah, but for tap dancers, it's not always about how fast you want your feet to move. Certain songs and certain feelings might require you to do a double time feel, which be a faster pace, or even a rumble, something that it literally just feels like the music and the dancing is just kind of like building up into something, and sometimes that means doing quicker paced tap dancing. However, it's not always necessarily about how fast your feet can move. A lot of it is about the music you're trying to create and what you're trying to express through tap dance, and how those percussive elements can fit in what you're trying to create. Long story short.
Thank you for that. Now I want to ask you, what is the hardest tap move, I would say, that got you going? And who was it that inspired you to take it beyond the level and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe she wants me or he wants me to do this step." So do you remember the hardest tap dance step, and who was it who gave it to you?
I would say one when I had read that question before, I was really thinking about it. And one that was always like, I guess, challenging for me for a while. I got
Hmm.
it when I was like 14, and I'll tell the story too. It's there are different like words for it, but
Hmm.
most commonly called a flip, which I don't know I don't know how to explain it. It's pretty much three sounds and a relaxed technique sort of feeling, which would mean that like you can't like grip onto your ankle, you can't like really like hold on to your feet, if that even makes sense.
Hmm.
And yeah, three sounds, the foot pretty much like feels like it goes like this across the floor.
Ah,
And it's
okay.
very just relaxed and open. Michelle Dorrance actually taught me that step. when I was working with her on a solo years ago. And I'll do the quick explanation of how she told it to me. I always think it's the funniest thing. She said to go to a graveyard, cut off a dead man's foot, cut off your own foot and put that dead foot onto yours. Shake it out. That's
Um,
the feeling that you want to have with a
just
foot.
like,
Pretty much
yeah.
dancing there. And one of my other tap teachers from a very long time ago, but it was my first mentor, Danny Wallace, always had to think of it as like kind of a floppy fish too. That's something that he used to describe it as well. Not necessarily with that
Oh,
step, but in tap dances in general,
mhm,
because so much of tap dance is rooted in that relaxed technique as well. If you really grip onto your feet, you're not going
mhm,
to be able to move as fast as you might want to because your muscles just aren't allowing yourself to do so. So
mhm,
that's when playing with your weight and how you're moving comes into the conversation of how you want to get from point A to point B to really feel
mhm.
how effective that movement can be of the feet in order to get what you're trying to attain.
Awesome answers, young lady. So what's next for
Thank
you, Miss Sydney? What is next? You're getting ready to
gosh,
graduate. What are we doing?
that is wild. So yeah, I currently attend Pace University. I swear time is flying so
I
fast.
know.
Yeah, I attend Pace University for communication studies with a minor in gender studies. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm looking forward to graduate next year. It just blows
Yes.
my mind.
And
um,
Broadway will be back open and audition times in January. So what's going on? You got anything looking up to
Yeah,
Broadway or?
I've been able to be a part of a lot of performances lately with choreographer Demi Remick, as she
Yes.
now has her dance company. So I've been able to join her for some performances in New York City.
Okay.
I'm definitely planning on staying in New York City for as long as possible.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, I was just
so.
in the city for like the past few months. I'm in my childhood home right now with my family.
Mhm.
But I was just out there and I just love everything about being out there. So I
Mhm.
look forward to continuing to collaborate with different artists. One of my dreams has always been to create a project-based dance company of tap dance and contemporary dance while continuing to collaborate with different artists as I really love choreographing in both styles of dance.
And I love your choreography, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
real quick before I let you go about that choreography, what inspires you? Like, do you hear something that makes you say, "Oh, I want to create"? Do you see something? Like, what is it that gets you going?
I would say it's a combination of both. There are certain songs that I know, like, as soon as I listen to it, I'll be listening to it on repeat because I so many ideas just come into my head, which make me really want to create to that song. Sometimes it's an idea or a concept that I really want to work with. So then I
Mhm,
know kind of the vision that I would want for it, and I can find music that relates to that concept. And
okay.
sometimes it's just knowing that I really want to create like a tap dance and contemporary duet. Now how can I
Mhm.
fit that in? Like I might already know the dancer, but I'm like, okay, what song do I want to
I
use?
have a perfect answer for you. I got him in the back of my head. I know who I want to send to you. But what if there's anyone out there that says, "Hey, I want Miss Sydney to choreograph for me. I'm doing a tap competition." Blah blah blah. How do people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can always go to my Instagram. It's City11, which is SYDI11. You can always direct message me off of that, and I look forward to dancing with you. Email is another great way for me. So
Mhm.
that would be Sid, just like the first half of my name, and then taps at gmail.com. So Sid taps at Gmail.
Awesome. Is there anything that we left out? I know I asked a whole lot. I was all in your business.
I think we pretty much hit all of
Okay.
the points, it looks like.
All right. Your last inspiring words for any young artists out there.
Just know that everything happens for a reason. You're on the path that you are truly meant to be on. And even though there will be a lot of twists and turns within that path, just trust that you know what is true to you. Always stick to your gut and what your heart says. And yeah, just keep on moving with your personal truth and your personal authenticity. And that'll make for the true, genuine you.
Awesome. Miss Sydney Burtis, I'm so proud of you. And please, when you're
Thank
back in
you.
town, call me. We'll do privates. We'll work it out.
Yes, that would
Thank
be
you.
incredible. Thank
Of
you so
course.
much.
Thank you. You're amazing and keep tapping. Thank you guys
Thank
for watching. This is Miss Sydney at 50.